Arg.
Hey guys, welcome to the season 6 finale of the Mixtape Podcast, the podcast dedicated to discussing film from a writer's perspective. For this season finale, I will be your master of ceremonies. My name is Marcela Nostroza, joined as always by my fellow co-host, Dean Stark. And on today's edition of the show, we will be talking about the 2002 film Signs, written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. So, as I do every week, I will toss it over to my co-host so she can walk us through the cornfields step by step.
Signs. I love this movie. I haven't seen this movie since it came out. Can you believe it? But this is such a good movie, and I feel like this was such a good pick by us for the season finale. And if you don't know what Signs is, this is the premise or the premise. A widowed farmer. Oh, sorry. Let me start that again. Season finale, fucking up already. A widowed former reverend living with his children and brother on a farm finds mysterious crop circles in their fields. So the opening scene, straight away we're introduced to Graham, which is Mel Gibson, and Merrill, which is Joaquin Phoenix, and that's his brother. And we're introduced to Graham's son, Morgan, and daughter, Bo. And they live on a cornfield farm, and they hear Bo screaming from inside the cornfield somewhere, and Graham and Merrill run through the corn and discover a crop circle, and they just kind of stand there because from their perspective it just looks like a circle of flattened corn. But what M. Night does is he pulls back, and as he pulls the camera back, we can see how massive the crop circle actually is and how small Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix actually are. And that was the opening scene. So right away, first 2 minutes of the movie, we're into it. We know there's a crop circle, so we know it's going to be something kind of alien related. We're introduced to all the main characters, and I just thought it was such a good setup by M. Night. What do you think?
I love the opening to this film because if one thing that M. Night Shyamalan does really, really well, he really focuses on atmosphere for the start of his films, and this film is no different. First, we are really introduced to the world by this haunting sort of Hitchcockian score by the composer, the composer that did all the Lord of the Rings. He's a really, really good composer, but I forget his name all the time. But that score, that Hitchcockian score, really, really puts you in a specific mood. Dean, do you know his name?
I don't know his name, but I was about to agree with you that this score is epic.
Yeah, it's just so good. And just another note on the score, the opening credits that it plays over is like a sepia tone blue color or something. It's just fucking tastic. But I really love that the film starts off with an establishing shot, and we see Mel Gibson's character waking up first, and we see him go through the house and go up to the door where his children are. And at first you think he's gonna check in on his children, but then he goes outside. Cue Joaquin Phoenix coming from the other direction, and then you see the cornfields. They run through the cornfields. You hear Mel Gibson's children, and then you're like, what the hell? And then his kids are like, there's something in the cornfields. And I'm like, what the? And then as the scene goes on, they come to the clearing. And again, like Dean said, M. Night is so good. I really love the moment where Mel Gibson stops at the edge of the clearing and M. Night focuses on his feet. And the camera pulls back, and then you see the crop circle. So I absolutely love the way that M. Night started out this film because he gave us everything that we needed in a very, very, very short period of time, and it's very, very economical. I mean, it's absolutely wonderful how he did this.
Yeah, I agree. I actually love him as a writer-director. I love most of the things that he has done.
Even Lady in the Water?
I love Lady in the Water. I don't know why people don't like it. I love that movie. It's so innovative. I love it.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen Lady in the Water in a long time. Perhaps I should look at it again.
Watch it again. Bryce Dallas Howard. She's the one. She's great. She's great in everything she does. But anyway, the first scene, we've got title cards, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, 45 miles outside of Philadelphia. And Graham is calling to find out who did this, because obviously your first thought is not going to be aliens, it's going to be who the fuck did this. So he's calling around saying, hey, did your kids do this? Did the local like misfits do this? And then what do I written? Graham is calling to find out what the deputy shows up. Sorry, the deputy shows up at his house, and they go to investigate the circles. And they've got a German Shepherd dog that starts to act really aggressive towards the kids, like for no reason. Now, obviously, this is a family dog. They've never had problems with this before. That wasn't said, but you can sort of just tell that the dog has not caused any problems. And we switch back to Graham, and he's talking to the deputy, and he says the circles are too perfect and the corn isn't broken, but it's like bent in an unusual way that cannot be done by hand nor machine. And so he's trying to think, well, it has to be. There's got to be something that's done it. And the deputy starts mentioning that some of the animals in the area have been acting funny, kind of aggressive, as if there's a predator nearby. And then Graham, knowing the dog has been acting funny, kind of runs back to the kids and finds the dog dead. And Morgan, the boy, had stabbed the dog because he said it was going to kill Bo. It was going for Bo, and he had to. And you kind of feel really sorry for this boy because you can tell he really, really loved the dog. And the deputy calls Graham father, which is, this is why I like M. Night's writing, because he mentions things that you go, oh, because obviously if you call someone father, they're in the church. Right? But he says, don't call me father. So when someone says that, it's like, oh, he was in the church, but then now he's not in the church. Oh, I wonder what happened. Also in that scene, the last little bit I'll say is Bo, the little girl, she's super cute. She's played by, God, what's her name? Abigail Breslin? Fuck, that's not her name. Is that her name? I don't know. I think that's her name.
That's her name. You got it.
Okay. She starts mentioning that the water tastes funny. And she doesn't want to drink the water. And they're like, there's nothing wrong with the water. And she's like, no, the water tastes funny. That will circle back later on. But that was scene one. That was a lot of shit. That was the deputy coming, investigating the crop circles. That was, okay, this was not done by a person. That was the water being mentioned. That was the dogs going ape shit. So there was a lot going on in that scene.
You mentioned that the cop casually slips in a line that Graham possibly worked for the church at some point. I'm really glad you said that, because I forgot to mention something in M. Night's establishing shots at the beginning of this film. As we go through the house, we see family pictures, and right outside of Graham's room, there's this outline of a cross that used to be on the wall. I love. Yeah. I don't know if you caught
I didn't notice that. I did not notice that.
Yeah. I love the way that M. Night, say with me, drops so many hats on the ground.
He's so many hats.
I love it. Even look, Dean said it. Even with the water thing, like that is a hat on fire for this whole movie.
Yeah.
You know, if you've never seen it before. But also, I really liked that scene when Graham, is outside investigating with the deputy, and I really appreciate that M. Night has something go wrong with the non-human characters in this movie first, to indicate to the audience that there's something bad about to happen. But I really appreciate that the way that he chose to say that from a story perspective is by giving it to an animal first and not giving it to a human, because by making something happen to the animals first, you give the humans in the story a false sense of security. So for me, that's good writing, and for me, that ratcheted up the tension to this film 100 times. For me, that ratcheted up the tension to this film way more than it would have done if M. Night wouldn't have handled that story point like that for this specific scene.
Yeah, I agree. So now it's the middle of the night, and Bo, the little girl, comes into Graham's room, and she says, "That's a monster outside my room. Can I have a glass of water?" And he's like, "Oh, okay," because kids say shit like that. Graham takes her back to her room, and they sit on her bed. And she asks, now this is the second scene of the movie. I'm saying that for a reason. She asks him why he talks to Mummy when he's alone. And Graham says it makes me feel better. And she says, does she ever answer back? And he says no. And then Bo says, yeah, she never answers me either. And that just breaks your heart. But what do we learn? We learn that the mum is dead. That's what we learn. But it's not, obviously you find out later, but it's not said. It's just, this is how good the writing is in this. It's just alluded to, and you're like, oh, okay. And then, and this is the creepiest part, because I mean, you're in the cinema, you're like, hey, yeah, this is the movie, and you don't expect something creepy to happen this early, because usually it would come later. So Graham looks outside Bo's window to see like a tall, dark, skinny figure that looks like kind of alien standing on the roof opposite the house. And it's just so jarring because you're not expecting it. He's having this really nice conversation with Bo, and he looks out and there's like an alien there, and it's just like this like crazy music. It's like the fucking psycho music. And he goes outside and he grabs Meryl, thinking it's like the local, mischief makers that have jumped up on the roof, because it was a dark silhouette. You don't automatically think, oh, there's an alien on the roof. You think it's a person dressed up or, someone. So they run outside and they run all the way around the house. They're yelling and they're like, come out, come out. And there's no one there. And then they start hearing noises on the roof, but we don't see it. We just see like Meryl looking up onto the roof. He doesn't see anything either. He just hears something on the roof. And then they turn to see the swing that they have in the backyard moving as if something ran past it. And you can see the corns kind of moving as if something ran past it into the corn. And this is the first 10 minutes of the movie. And by now, like when I was in the cinema, I was sufficiently freaked the fuck out. I mean, I was, because I'm like, what? This is weird. I'd never seen anything like this before. So what did you think of that?
Yeah, listen, I really identified with Bo coming into Graham's room, asking for a glass of water. Again, M. Night really has taken the hat on the ground and amplified it by 10. But the reason why I liked it so much is because M. Night does what all good storytellers should do when illustrating their story to the audience. The best way to illustrate your story to the audience is show, don't tell. And I love that he has hinted that something happened to the mom, but we really don't understand that until this scene. And like Dean said, he doesn't fucking spill it out. It's just implied. And you have to be a you have to be a really dullard of an audience member not to understand that. But I love the way that M. Night handled that. I also love the way that M. Night handled the first visual of the actual beings in this movie by showing one of them standing outside of a building right next to the house that Graham and his family live in. And I really love how M. Night took that really awkward and scary situation and gave the characters a plausible way to look at it by saying, oh, it's these people that have messed with us before, and we're going to deal with them, and basically we're going to scare them away. I love when Graham and Joaquin Phoenix go outside to possibly, scare away these individuals who they think are terrorizing them for a specific reason. And they go outside, and Joaquin Phoenix is like, we need to be tough and we need to be strong. And Graham's character says, that's no problem, but I can't curse. Every time I curse, it sounds like it's stupid.
Doesn't sound right.
Yeah. So the next thing we see basically is the next thing we see basically is them going around their property, screaming to high heaven, trying to scare away these things who they think are actual people. But I'm with Dean. I'm with Dean 100% in that it's M. Night makes it so creepy, and there's something so wonderfully askewed about this movie that none of M. Night's other films really have. There's something unique and so special about this movie that is not present in any of his other films. Because the other thing that this film has or it doesn't have a twist. And
yeah, that is true.
And yeah, and M. Night after this movie or after The Sixth Sense is notorious for this. And I is notorious for a twist. And I really appreciate that this movie doesn't have a twist. I really appreciate that it is a straightforward story.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even notice it didn't have a twist. Like, obviously it doesn't, but yeah, you're right. He does do twists in his movies, which I appreciate. But I agree with you. I think it's good that it was just stock standard, straight. Didn't have a twist. Didn't need a twist. The next scene is funny because Graham and Meryl are sitting at the table with the deputy, and they're trying to describe who was on the roof because they're thinking it's like the local idiots down the road. And she's like, "Can you describe who it was?" And they're like, "Yeah, he was tall." And the other one's like, "It could have been a woman." They're like, "Yeah, but they were like really skinny, really tall. It could have been a tall, skinny woman." She's like, "Okay, so tall and skinny, right? Got it." And she's like, and they're just that they don't know. There's like, oh, it was dark. We couldn't see. Like, we couldn't see facial features. We couldn't see anything. She's like, I don't know how you want me to put together. Like, you didn't see anything. Well, they kept saying, well, it was dark, but there was someone here, and um and the deputy goes, okay, and she doesn't know what to do. And Bo keeps coming in to Graham. She's so cute. She's like, can I change the channel on the TV? And Graham goes, yeah, just here's find the remote. She goes away and then she comes back. She goes, I can't find the remote. And he's like, well, it's under something. It's just find the remote. And at first I'm like when I saw this movie, I'm like, what is the actual point of her like coming in and interrupting it? And then Graham goes, we'll change the channel on the TV. And she says, but it's the same show on every channel. And that's when they go, huh? So they go into the living room, and before they get to the TV, they notice that there are half glasses of water everywhere. And he's like, he says to her, what is with why are you even leaving half glasses of water everywhere? She's like, no, that tastes weird. That's got a hair in it. That tastes funny. And it's just, they're fucking everywhere. And he's just like, is this a kid thing? Like, I don't know. But it kind of comes back. I mean, it does. It kind of comes back in the end. So they go to the TV and they look at what's on, and on every single channel, it's breaking news broadcast. And they're talking about crop circles are starting to appear in India. And there's like 20 different locations in India that these different crop circles have been seen like in one night. And it's funny because the broadcast, I kind of didn't agree with this because I don't think this would be something that like, Katie Couric fucking would say. Not that it was her, but I'm just trying to pick someone. They're like, it may be to do with extraterrestrials. Like the news wouldn't say that. So I was like, I get why the dialogue was in there, but that would never be. What would they say? They would say under investigation, the police are investigating the situation to try and find out who did it. You know what I mean? Like they wouldn't say, okay, it may be extraterrestrials, because that would be the last. I mean, even for me that believes in ETs, that would be the last possible thing in my mind. I would have to, I mean, you know me, I have to exclude everything.
Yes, I do.
To go, oh, okay, it has to be extraterrestrials. So I thought that was a bit weird. But again, every scene in this movie pushes it forward. There's no shit scenes that do nothing for the story. And the movie's like just under 2 hours long. But everything pushes everything forward, which I liked.
This movie is under 2 hours long? Is that right?
It's 1 hour, like 45 minutes or something.
Huh. Yeah, it just went by like that. Like the snap of a finger. This movie is reminding me why I really love M. Night as a storyteller. Look, you can say what you want to say about his choices after he got mega famous and what he chose to do, but I absolutely love the way that his writing basically pushes the story forward in this movie. Every scene has a purpose, and everything leads into something else that explains his the purpose of this movie, like with Bo asking to change the channel, with the glasses all over the house, with the news reporter. Everything in this movie is some sort of hat.
Yeah.
And I absolutely look, some people, some writers will say this is plotty. You just have to you have to explain the people in this town. You have to sort of do it a different way. And I'm like, bullshit, you don't have to do it that way. Do it like this. Because if you do it like this, when you get to where you want to go, people will see the roadmap if they're not paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if
I
they
agree.
see the roadmap, they'll like it more. Look, now, not every writer thinks the way that we do, but I think, and I think I speak for Dean when I say this, we like this type of storytelling. We like
Yeah.
writing stories that spread little breadcrumbs for the audience to follow and for the readers to follow,
Yeah.
because that's how we work.
Yeah.
And and the fact that M Night, at least at this point in his career, works like that as well is just absolutely astounding to me. I kind of understand where you're coming from with the news report not saying that it's like it could be extraterrestrials. The only way that I would think about justifying that is the fact that it was a small news station, possibly, and that's why they put it like that. But but if it were any other case, I would totally agree with you that that news report is sort of kind of a fabrication, because no news reporter worth his salt would say possible alien sighting, because that would probably freak out a bunch of folks.
You know what would have been better in that scene? If it was obviously the news report, but you know how they interview people? If they interviewed people and the majority of the people going, it was the aliens, it was the aliens. Do you know what I mean? Because I
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
why he put that in. Yeah, I understand why he put that in the scene, because he needed to get the word extraterrestrials in the film. But if he had just had someone being interviewed going, it's extraterrestrials, they're coming. And then the news broadcaster goes, oh, well, let's not jump to conclusions yet. Do you know what I mean? That still would have got it
right,
into the audience's head that it's ETs.
right. If he would have had like some random wackadoo say it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
So the next scene, they go into town and Morgan, the son, is like all into it. He's like, yep, it's aliens. It has to be. I want to learn more. So he's hunting for books. He goes into a bookstore. He's like, do you have any books on ETs? And it's so funny. Again, goes into a bookstore, asks if there are any books on ETs, and the bookstore owner goes, oh, I think we have one. If you go into a bookstore now, they've got like a whole section dedicated to extraterrestrials and aliens. Everybody and their dog are writing books on fucking aliens.
but
I'm like,
yeah,
the
yeah,
what
but
book?
yeah, but Dean, you have to remember this is a small town.
That is true. That is true. I did not take that into account. I apologize. It is a small town. So Graham, this is actually quite funny. Graham goes to pick up Morgan's inhaler. When we learn he was a reverend who left the church 6 months ago, and the reason we know that is because the girl that's working in the drugstore, she she sits there. She's like, "Oh my god, can I confess my sins to you?" And he's like, I'm not a reverend anymore. And then she sits there, she goes, is douchebag a bad word? Like, am I gonna get a hell for saying douchebag? And he's like, it depends what context it's in. And she's like, okay, Jerry, you're a douchebag. Like, is that bad? And he's like, yeah, that would not be good. And he's just standing there like, get me the fuck out of here. Get me the fuck away from this chick. Like, I mean, look, it didn't need to be in there, but it was funny because it lightened it, which is what I like about this movie. You've got really intense shit with the aliens, but then he
Yeah.
lightens it up. He puts sprinkles of like sparkles in where it's just light, funny, and whatever, which I kind of really appreciate. You appreciate it?
Yeah, you know what? Everybody gives. I mean, those individuals who actually like M Night as a storyteller,
Mm.
everybody gives him props for his dramatic storytelling. But not a lot of individuals, at least that I know, have given him his props on his sense of humor and the way that he melds his serious storytelling with sense of humor. I really
Mm.
appreciate how he does that in a
Yeah.
way, which is kind of funny because this is right around the time, it's after this movie or after this extent, when that New York Times cover came out and it basically said M. Night Shyamalan, the next Spielberg. In a way, yeah, that was ill advised. Uh, because M. Night, I love M. Night, but M. Night is not Spielberg. Um,
Nobody is.
right, because Spielberg is only Spielberg.
Yep.
Uh, there's only one Steven Spielberg.
Yep.
In a way, M. Night has a little bit of that Spielberg kind of thing where he's able to infuse good comedy into his films that I think really help release the tension of the stories that he's trying to tell. Um, I really like that moment when Graham's kids go into the store and his kid tries to find a book on extraterrestrials, but
Mm,
there's only one book in the place. I
mm,
really, really like that idea because I really think it furthers, it really drives the point home that this is a small town and it's kind of closed off from everywhere.
mm.
And I really like the fact that not a lot of information is available about the thing that is happening in this movie. So
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting way to keep the audience and the readers who are reading the script when M. Night first wrote it at bay and to keep them on the edge of their seat and to not give them information at critical points is a way to ratchet up the tension even more. So I really appreciated that.
Mm,
I do understand where you're coming from, Dean, when you say in this day and age, there's no way that anybody could go in a bookstore and not walk down the aisles and find the section on extraterrestrials. But
mm,
I do feel like in this context for this story, it
mm.
worked.
Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree. So Meryl goes to get a now this is kind of you can explain this to me. I didn't get it. Meryl goes to get a pamphlet for the army, um, which never comes back ever. Did it come back?
I don't think so. Think that I think that that is something that M. Night wanted to sort of hint at,
Mm.
but it's either he wanted to hint at it or he took a section of the film out
Yeah, yeah. Because
because
he goes in there. Oh, sorry. Go,
right
go.
no because Merrill getting a pamphlet to the army indicates to me that he wants to sort of run away, and
Mm.
he doesn't seem like an individual that does that or would do that.
No, but he seems like he doesn't want to be there either. Because we know
Yeah,
he's only there because the wife died. He does not want to be there. He wants his own life.
yes, that is true. But I will just fight back with you. I will just fight back with that point that you said by saying
Mm,
this. There are several instances in the film when Merle actually supports his brother, and there's this one moment towards the end of the film when he says something very profound to his brother, and that makes me believe that although, as you say, he may not want to be there, I think that he's just trying to make the best out of the situation that he has been given. But to answer your question, the him grabbing the pamphlet for the army doesn't come back in any meaningful way, and I do believe that M. Night possibly may have taken something out or may have introduced a storyline that he just forgot about.
right, right. So when he goes in there to pick up the pamphlet, the sergeant tells him that he knows exactly what the ETs are doing. It's what we do. It's what we would do. It's military tactics. They send in a few to scout the area, make sure it's safe. And then Meryl goes, safe for what? And the sergeant goes, for the rest to come. And you're just like, oh, because that's kind of what's happening. And then now we learn that Meryl used to play baseball because the sergeant goes, hey, I know you. I know you. And he's giving all these baseball terms that I had no idea. You hit fucking 200. What do you say? 200 fucking bats or runs or something. You're the baseball guy. What was he saying?
Average.
Right. So he was telling him, he was a great baseball hitter, basically. And but we learned he wasn't good at listening to his coach. He just, when there was a ball coming at him, he just hit it as hard as he could. He had no skill. He just tried to hit the ball. But then we learned he actually achieved the strikeout record of all time. And it's funny because he's talking to the sergeant, and then this guy that we didn't even know was in there starts telling him, oh, he's also got the strikeout record and all this shit. And it's interesting because I felt like that scene, yes, was information we needed to know, but it was clearly exposition. Like it's like, how am I gonna get this out? Because why would the sergeant know who he is? Why would he know that he did that? And why would there just happen to be another guy that also knew this? I know it's a small town. I know. But I just didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I
Yeah,
felt like
yeah,
M Night could have done better.
yeah. You know what? I'm on the same wavelength with you. That scene really, that's the only scene in the movie that was plotty to me.
Mm.
And I was like, M. Night, Booby, as Ellis would say in Die Hard, he could have done that a lot better. Like we know that Merle doesn't want to be there, so just have a scene when Merle is in his room, right, and he's got all these boxes on the floor because he's just moved there, and
Mm.
have him open up a box with photos of his playing days.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's all. That's all you got to do, and watch
Yeah.
him. Why let him have him go through stuff, and have one of those things be an actual box score from one of his games, and
Yeah.
you could actually zoom in on the box score to show his average and to show his strikeout rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right
Absolutely could have done that. Yes. I
there,
agree.
there we go. It's right there.
Yeah, see. So the little tail end of that scene is they all meet up for dinner, and they all see a man. I can't remember what his name is, but he's played by M. Night, and they stare at him, and we don't
Let
know who
me
he is now, but we know who he is later. Yes.
let me ask you this: we like M Night on this channel. Yes, is that fair?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we do. Does it bug you because that's the only thing about this is the only thing about M Night where I'm like, dude, stop putting your.
No, I
I
love
don't.
that. I love he puts himself in it because you know what? He
You
fucking
love that?
can.
Okay,
He's like,
he
I'm the
can.
boss, I'm the director, and I'm fucking gonna be in the movie. I love that.
You actually,
I
okay.
love it.
You actually love that. Okay.
I love it. I love seeing him pop up because he's not a bad actor. You know what I mean? And again, because he fucking can. Good on him.
Yeah, yeah. Because again, folks, this was Prime M Night. He is the director, the writer, and the producer. One of the producers of this film. So
Mhm.
he's basically king shit.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, but I have to disagree with you. Look, I do think that M Night is I think he's a good actor, but it kind of takes me out of his
Mm.
films when I see him. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's like M Night. It's like M Night is the wizard. It's like
Yeah.
M Night is the wizard in the Wizard of Oz. And every time I
Yeah.
see the wizard, I'm like, you're a cool wizard. I love you, but I don't want to see you.
Yeah, right. Get back behind the curtain.
Get back,
Yeah.
get back behind the curtain. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I've ever asked you about how you felt about that. So
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I don't have
yeah,
a problem at all. So
okay.
they arrive home and Morgan, they're in the car and they pull up at their house, and Morgan is holding Bo's old baby monitor because he's been told if you use a baby monitor, you can get certain frequencies coming through. And they start hearing weird noises, and Graham goes, "Oh, it's just interference. You know, there's radio signals all over the place." And Meryl's like, "Yeah, no, there's nothing to it." And then they get out of the car, and the signal kind of clears up a bit. And Graham's like, "No, it's just interference. Stop making. I know you want to believe it's aliens, but it's not." And then they hold it up, and it gets a little bit clearer. And then Morgan, who's the boy, he jumps on top of the car and he holds it up as high as he can. And then they start hearing clicking sounds going back and forth. And Morgan's like, they're having a conversation, which it kind of does sound like two kind of alien beings having a conversation back and forth. And that's when Graham and Meryl are looking because they don't believe. They're just like, okay, this is kid stuff. The ETs are not going to come here. That's ridiculous. And I like the arc of these two characters because they start out as non-believers, and as the story goes on and on, there's so much evidence to prove that ETs are here and they are kind of invading that they cannot deny it anymore. And they're just like, okay, what the fuck do we do? And I like the character breakdown of that.
Yeah, one of the glorious things about M Night Shyamalan is that he layers his characters so well, and to have two principal characters that start out the film as non-believers to the premise of your movie, but to slowly give them evidence that this premise is actually real, or dropping hats on the ground, and to see them come around by the things that happen to them during the film, and the things that M Night puts them through as a writer is one of the most rewarding things that you can. It is one of the most rewarding gifts that you can give to the audience, because it tells me that you actually care about the story that you're presenting to people, and that you don't believe in force feeding people information because you think they're stupid. That's another thing that I really appreciate about M. Night. He doesn't treat his audience like they're fucking morons. He lets them figure out his movies as he walks you through them. And the other thing that he likes that I really appreciate is that his films are perfect circles, but his films are perfect circles with little doors that you can go in and out of if you don't like the circle that he made when he gets to the end of it. And I really appreciate that about M. Night. And I don't think that we see that with other filmmakers of his caliber.
Yeah, I agree. The next scene is a bit of a tense scene. It's probably my favorite scene in the movie. Graham hears rustling in the cornfield, and he's got a flashlight, and he goes to investigate. And as he's walking through the cornfield, he's calling out, go away to anyone who's there. I'll call the police. I've got a gun and all this stuff. But he's nervous. He's really, really, really nervous because he doesn't know. It's dark. He doesn't know what to expect. I don't think he thinks aliens, but he doesn't know what to expect. So as he's heading back to the house, he hears a clicking sound, which is the same clicking sound we heard previously on the baby monitor. And he turns around, he drops his flashlight, and it's all dark. And he turns around to pick up his flashlight. And as he picks it up, because it's pointing in a weird direction because it's rolled a bit, we see like the back half of clearly a non-human like person walking into the cornfield, like away from Graham. And the way that M. Night shot it was just really fucking creepy. You just see this like really skinny white leg, like non-human, like walking into the field, and Graham sees this and he just fucking guns it. He just runs out, he gets back to the house, and he doesn't know what to think because, again, he was totally against aliens, but what he's seen is it can't be. That's not real. He can't be. He's a man of the cloth. He doesn't fucking believe in aliens. What is this? But loved that scene.
Yeah, I really love how M. Night chose to direct us in, because like Dean just said, he he makes it clear that Graham obviously doesn't know how to use a gun, and he picks up on the hat on the ground that he introduced previously with the clicking of the alien. But the money shot of that moment to me is once Graham drops the flashlight and it's in absolute darkness, and M. Night pivots to the feet of this alien being going into the cornfield. It's just fucking creepy. If M. Night does M. Night does a lot of things particularly well, but one of the things that I think that he does better than anybody for his specific type of film, he uses tension really, really well in his films. And he doesn't rely on jump scares. He relies on giving the audience a feeling and a sense of something.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, he's good at freaking people the fuck out. So I have a question. This scene, the family is watching TV. Now, the news broadcast is showing footage of alien spacecrafts, a lot of them, hovering above cities. My question is, if you turned on the news and you saw that and that was legit, that was not someone fucking with anybody, how would you react? What would you think?
I would think that we're fucked. Because listen, as a disabled person, and Dean will tell you this, there are two end of day situations that I will not have a single chance on whatsoever. Number one, if at some point a massive plague spreads across the world and we have zombies, like I wouldn't survive that. I wouldn't survive an alien invasion because I can't run.
Yeah.
So I think, but taking your question tremendously seriously right now, I wouldn't know what to think, and I would be afraid for my safety. And
Yeah.
and the safety of people that I really care about. And
Yeah.
listen, I would truly be freaked the fuck out, and I think that you would have a similar reaction to that.
Um, no, I would probably be, I would same but different. I wouldn't be freaking out. I wouldn't I would have a little bit, I guess a little bit of anxiety, but I wouldn't think it's the end of the world. I wouldn't think they're here to invade. I wouldn't think anything. Um, yeah, I would have a different take on that. But most people would have your take though. I would say
Yeah.
99% of people.
Yeah, okay, so if that ever happens, note to self, contact Dean before you start losing your shit. Okay.
Yeah, you call me, I will calm you down. I will tell you everything's fine. So Graham, there's some great dialogue that happens here because Graham is talking to Meryl and he says there are two types of people in the world: the ones who believe in miracles and everything happens for a reason, and the ones that don't. Now, those who don't will be panicking right about now because they will not understand. The ones that believe in miracles and a purpose for everything will believe that we are not doomed because they believe that it is meant to be and a miracle will save us. And then we learn information that Graham's wife obviously is dead, but we knew that. And the last words she said to him was swing away. And that will come back later. And he has no idea. He's like, oh, obviously she was delusional. She didn't know what she was saying. And yeah, Graham thought it was nothing. And that's how he lost his faith. And, you know, he says, whatever happens in life, no one will save you. But I have something to say to that because there are a lot of movies where reverends, priests, pastors, you know, the churchy people, I'll call them Catholic churchy people, something bad will happen and it doesn't take much for them to lose their faith. And that means that their faith wasn't even there to begin with, because just because you
Yeah.
are a man or a woman of the cloth doesn't mean your life is going to be perfect and nobody you love is going to die. So I don't know why they think that, but they're just like, you know, God, you took away my wife. I work for you, and nobody works for God. Like, this is what I don't get. Like, you obviously never had faith in the beginning, because that happens a lot. And it's like, you think shit is not going to happen to you because you're a priest? No, it doesn't happen like that.
People who choose to become members of the Catholic Church or whatever religion, I believe those people are inherently flawed.
Ooh.
And the reason why they join the reason why they join these institutions is because they're looking for meaning and they're looking for a sense of belonging. And when that institution lets them down by letting something horrible happen to them, they are they are in that space that they didn't want to be in the first place. They are in the space that they were trying to get away of by joining this institution. So I really believe that the whole idea of being a priest is just an excuse for people who have, how am I going to put this in a nice way? For people that have questionable self-esteem to sort of be able to find their way and and to use their personality issues that they have with each other, to use their personality issues to help other people, but not truly to work on themselves, which is what they should be doing in the first place.
I actually agree with you. So you know, if people are listening to this and they're like, well, of course that's what an atheist would fucking say. I'm not an atheist, and I'm agreeing with Marcelo that I think everybody wants a purpose and needs a purpose, and I think being someone of the cloth gives you a sense of a greater purpose. Like, I'm working for a higher power, directly for a higher power. I don't work for anybody but, you know, somebody pretty much I've never met. It gives them a sense of purpose. It gives them a sense of power, and it gives them a life, basically. So then you're right. They need They need to belong to someone or something, or they need to know that they're doing good. People always want to be good, and yeah. So I do agree with you. It might annoy people, but you know, I think it's true. I think it's true. So Graham walks into his kid's bedroom, and they're both sitting there wearing tinfoil hats. And Morgan's like, it's to stop the aliens from reading our minds. And he's
I
just
it's
like,
just
okay.
I love the scene. I absolutely love it. It's just so funny.
And then Graham goes, "What are you doing?" And Morgan and Bo are reading the alien book that Morgan got from the shop. And he sits in between them and he's looking at the book, and it's destructive, aliens invading, and then he comes across a drawing in the book where it's like there's an alien, like there's a UFO, and it's like beaming like red light onto a house that looks exactly like their ranch, and the ranch is in flames. And Graham is like, "Oh, that looks like our house." Like everything in that book is disturbing. Everything in that book is not going to bring positivity. And he's like, "All right, that's it. The end of the book. We're not reading this book because it's freaking him out." He didn't take it
Yeah.
away. He didn't take it away from the kids because it's freaking them out. It's because it's freaking him out. And he's like, "Yep, we're not reading this anymore," which I thought was funny.
Yeah. That scene is just a way for M Night to further push his story forward in a really fun and creepy way. And I love that the images in the book that his kid got is actual images of like a lookalike farmhouse that they have. So it's really funny. And also, like I said, I love the tinfoil hats on their heads. I just think that's a really fun, cheeky moment for M Night to throw in there.
Yeah, so Graham gets a phone call, and we don't know who it's from, but he thinks he knows who it's from. So he goes to the guy's house, and he sees him sitting in his car, and he goes to him, and it's the guy they saw. It's M Night's character. It's the guy they saw earlier at the town, and he says this story like he's the one. He fell asleep at the wheel. His wife was walking home, and he hit and killed his wife. But how he was saying the story, he was like there was nothing, there was nobody. I could have fallen asleep at any time, but I fell asleep at that exact moment that your wife was there. And it was just a weird coincidence that that was the exact moment because there was nobody else around. I could have passed her and then fell asleep, but I didn't. And maybe everything happens for a reason, which I believe everything happens for a reason.
Wait a minute. Do you think Graham's wife getting T-bombed by M Night's character was somehow a part of the aliens showing up?
No, no,
Be-
no, no,
we-
no,
okay.
no, nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that.
Okay.
So he's clearly having trouble with it. He doesn't even want to look Graham in the eye. Like he apologizes, and like you can see the guy is just like he doesn't want to live with himself basically for what he's done. But anyway, he starts talking about the aliens, and he goes, "I don't think they like water, so I'm going to go to the lake." And then the final thing he says to Graham before he drives off is, "Don't look in my pantry because I locked one of them in there." And then he drives off, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, are we going to go look in the pantry? Let's look in the pantry." But that was that scene.
Yeah, you know what? I really liked it because I didn't, well, the first time I saw this movie, I didn't expect M. Night to cast himself in the role of, oh, I'm going to be the person that kills the wife of the lead character that leads to him leaving the church, which in turn leads to him, my main character, losing his faith. I was like, I thought that was a really interesting thing for M. Night to do. And I really like how he keeps bringing back this water motif, and he kind of keeps dropping this hat on the ground previously and previously and previously. And at this point, I'm like, and you better fucking pay this off. Because if you don't pay this off, this is going to be the biggest, this is going to be the biggest letdown in
Ever.
in ever. So you have to pay this off.
Yeah.
But I'm really I really appreciate the ending on this film. I'm not going to say it was great, but I really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. So Meryl, who at the beginning of the movie was so against aliens, it's not aliens, it's not ET, something's messing with us. He's glued to the television. He cannot look away. He's all wrapped up into it. He's sitting in the closet because they've put the TV in the closet because they don't want the kids to see. And he's just sitting there in the dark, just watching this news broadcast over and over and over again. He's obsessing over it. When it shows footage of a little girl's birthday party in Brazil. And the news broadcaster says this has been authenticated. It's real. If you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. But we're going to air it in its entirety. So the footage is little girl's birthday party, and it's like, yay, we're eating cake, we're having fun. And then the camera pans over to there's like a little alleyway at the back of the house. Now this scene, when the camera pans over, you see an alien in its full form walk past this alleyway. And it's so quick. But when this movie came out, this was the scene that scared the shit out of every single person that fucking watched this movie, because we'd had alien movies before, but this was just so creepy. And still today, even on social media, people will post like a screenshot of that scene going, "This is the scariest scene ever." Just when this alien walked past. I remember I was in the cinema having a heart attack, going, "This is so fucking creepy," because you weren't expecting it. You're like, "What are we gonna see?" But it was such a good shot to use by M. Night to really sufficiently freak people the fuck out.
I cannot stand this scene for all the reasons that Dean just said. It creeped me the fuck out. It look. It is not on Roger Rabbit level, but it's pretty damn close, because Merle is watching the footage, and he's watching the footage of this party, and M. Night zooms into the TV, and you sort of just focus on the footage, and all of a sudden it goes, you know, it's like M. Night had a string, and he's like, I'm tightening it, and as the alien goes by, it's so quick, but it's so disconcerting, and these aliens are so fucking skinny. They're like shrouded in they're like shrouded in darkness. It's so unsettling. It's so creepy.
It's so
Absolutely
fucking creepy.
creepy.
Graham goes to look in this guy's pantry, the pantry scene, right? And he's looking at it, and he's like, "All right, come out now." He thinks it's a person, right? Because he still goes, "No, it can't be aliens." He hears nothing. And he's like, "Well, there must be something in there," because he said the pantry door's closed. He said he locked something in there. So he's trying to look underneath, and he can't see anything. And he grabs a knife, and he tries to see under the door, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not going to do this." And he walks away, and then he walks back, then he walks away. Like he doesn't know what to do. He's like, his curiosity gets the best of him, because he really wants to know what's in the pantry, but he kind of doesn't. So he gets the knife, and he puts the knife under to see if he can see the reflection of anything. When you just see this like claw come out, that's clearly not fucking human, because it's a claw. And he cuts the fingers off this thing. He just screams. And that was it. And that was a creepy scene too.
That is a really, really creepy scene for a completely different reason, because I thought when I first saw this movie, I thought Graham was gonna sort of remove the piece of furniture that M. Night's character put against the cupboard so it can actually go in there. But the fact that he kneels on the floor, and I love the shot that M. Night uses of showing the reflection from the knife when he slips under the door, and like Dean said, this claw type of hand comes out, and Graham just reacts and he cuts out the fingers. But I also like that M. Night doesn't stay there, and that he cuts to a scene of birds, and I really like that edit. I mean, I don't have too much to say about the way this film was cut, but I really, really like the edit, and the shot of the knife going underneath the door is one of my favorite shots in this movie.
Yeah, so Graham gets home, and now he's convinced. He's convinced it's aliens, and he gets home, and you can see he's in a daze. He doesn't know what to think. His faith is fucked up again, and he gets home, and he sees his two kids, his two young kids, and Merrill, a grown-ass man with tinfoil hats on. And he's just like, "Oh my God." So he sits on the staircase, and he asks Morgan, he's like, "What does it say in your book that the aliens are going to do, like, now? What happens now?" And Morgan goes, "Well, now they invade." And Graham's like, "Oh, that's not what I want to hear." And then Morgan says, "But they're not going to use their technology against us, because they know we would use nuclear weapons against them, and they don't want that." And that was great dialogue, because through the entire movie you're like, well, they're technologically more advanced. Like, why don't they just fuck with us? But the fact that he's gotten around budget issues by saying, well, they're not going to use the technology. They're going to use hand-to-hand combat, obviously. I thought that was really ingenious. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense why they're not using their technology against us. I thought that was really cool. And then he said, we need to board up the windows because they're like, he's like, do you want to go to the lake? Because maybe they don't like water. And they're like, no, let's stay here. We want to stay here. And he's like, okay, let's board up the windows. And Meryl says, well, what's that going to do against aliens? And Graham goes, because they seem to have trouble with pantry doors, which I thought was really funny. But that is that scene.
Yeah, it's a really, really good scene to walk around budget, but also an issue that I see with this movie with a lot of folks. They say, okay, if the aliens wanted to invade a certain planet, why come to this planet? I mean, yeah, I really like that scene because it really pushes the story forward. And like Dean, I really like that M. Night sort of worked around his budget issue by saying, um, the reason why the aliens didn't choose to come here and use their technology against us is because they knew if they used their technology against us, we would use our atom bombs against them. But that begs the question: wouldn't they be able to stop an atom bomb or type of bomb because they're aliens, right? Can't they stop?
Maybe, but maybe they can't. Maybe nuclear weapons they can't. I don't know because nuclear weapons they're nukes, so maybe they can't.
Right. Right. Who knows? But I really like at this point that the group is basically resigned to either going to the lake house or staying in the house
Mhm.
by boarding it up to protect themselves. And I really like that M. Night keeps them in the house because the first time I saw this movie, I thought they were going to go to the lake, but by
Mhm.
keeping them in the house, he puts all his main characters in one contained location, and watching these people go through what they're going to go through is really fascinating to me.
They're watching TV now when the news shows more and more UFOs hovering over more and more cities, like over 200 cities. So they're kind of getting ready to invade. Are you nervous now? Are you more? Do you have more anxiety now, Marcel? If you watch that.
Uh, yeah, I do for sure. Yeah, I do.
At this time, I'd be like, maybe I'll get anxious now.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll get a
yeah.
bit nervous
So
now.
yeah. So just to be clear, at this point, if I haven't called you yet, would you call me right now?
Um, I would call you. No, you would call me straight away. Straight away, you would call me
Yeah. You're right.
because
You're
I'd
right.
be
All
like,
right.
he would definitely call me if he was like having a heart attack. I don't know what
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do.
No, yeah, no. But she's not kidding. I would definitely call her.
Yeah. So they sit to eat dinner, and I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know how I feel about what the characters say in this scene because I kind of understand it from both ends. Morgan asks, "Can we say a prayer before we eat?" And Graham says, no, he's not wasting any more time saying prayers. Morgan knows that Graham doesn't do that anymore, and he knows the reason why. So the fact that he's asking for his father to do something that his father is not ready to do is, I'm sorry, I know he's like 10. It's a bit of a dick move. And then he starts crying because Graham is like, no, I'm not doing a prayer. And there's a reason why. It's trauma based, right? But Morgan doesn't get it. Like he gets it, but it's like, I don't know. I guess it's just like he just doesn't fucking care. And then he says, you let mum die. And I'm like, oh, wow. This guy lost the love of his life, and you're turning around saying you let mum die. I understand he's in pain as well, but like saying that to someone, like, that's just fucking shit. And then Graham obviously gets the shits because he's the whole movie so far, he's really calm. And this is the first time where he gets angry. And he's angry because he's upset. He's sad. He doesn't know what to do because he just wants to eat dinner. And then all this shit starts coming up within him. And I get it because he's the strong one all the time. He's the one that's like, everyone's okay, taking care of everyone. And there gets to a point, if you're the strong one in the family, you do get to a breaking point when someone will say something and then all your armor will just fall off and you'll just completely break down and cry, which is what he did. He got angry and then he started crying. And Morgan went over there and kind of gave him a hug and everything was okay. But I just thought Morgan was just being a bit of a dick, I thought.
Yeah, but folks, Morgan is 10 years old. But that's all I will say. The fact that Morgan essentially gaslighted Graham in this moment really kind of ticked me off because I thought it was unwarranted because Graham during the whole movie has been the common sensible one, and I really love the way that Graham has had a battle with religion, but throughout this whole movie, and M Night has alluded to that in various different ways as he's taken us through this film. But one thing that I really like that I don't feel a lot of people focus on when I hear conversations about this movie is I really love Graham's issue with faith and why he has an issue with it. But I think Morgan at this point in time was looking for somebody to give him comfort and give his sister comfort and, and give his uncle comfort. Also, really quickly, I love the fact that Graham asked everybody what they wanted to eat, and the fact that they made everything as a sort of last meal.
Mm.
I really enjoyed that.
I can't believe they had all the ingredients for all those different foods.
Yeah. You know what? You know what? You know what? I say it every episode, guys. Here it comes. Writer's
Rice
convenience.
convenience. Yeah. I'm like, damn, I wish I had all that food. Great. And then I could just make anything I wanted. So this scene, Graham checks the TV, turns the TV on, and there's no broadcast, there's nothing. And he goes, okay, it's happening. And the house is all boarded up when they start hearing noises from outside and they start seeing shadows, and the aliens are they're trying to figure out how to get in. They're on the roof, they're upstairs. And then Meryl goes, oh no, I forgot to board up the attic door. So they head downstairs to the basement. And they go downstairs and there's one of those hanging light bulbs, and Meryl accidentally smashes it. So they have to use flashlights with that, which I really like because it makes it way fucking creepier that there's like one or two flashlights. So the aliens keep making noises like outside. They're trying to get into the basement door. They know that they're there and they can't get through the door. And Graham says, there's got to be another way out of the basement. I know there is. I've just not found it. We have to find it and kind of plug it up. And this was so fucking creepy. So they're searching the walls and they find an old coal shaft, and Morgan is standing in front of it. It's just like a little gate that you can kind of crawl through. And he's like, and they're shining the light on him. And he's like, what? And then like a camouflage hand that you didn't even know was there, like grabs him and they pull him and then they block the thing, the entrance. But it was so creepy because I actually rewound that scene because you're not actually supposed to see the hand until it moves. Obviously, they've camouflaged it into the gate. But I rewound it. And even when you rewind it, you kind of can't even really see the hand. That's how good the paint job is on the prosthetic hand that is there. It's just so fucking creepy.
Yeah, I really love that scene when they decide to go into the cellar of the house after they know that the aliens are trying to get to them. But the specific reason why I like it is what Dean alluded to, the lighting and the fact that M. Night puts his characters into a situation where they only have to rely on specific sources of light. In this case, it's a flashlight. And putting Morgan against the wall and seeing that camouflage hand come and grab him only amplifies the state of things. But I also really like this tiny moment when Joaquin Phoenix is stacking a bunch of, I think they're some kind of farming material bags.
Like compost or like manure.
Yes, that's it. And he sort of, after he stacks that, he just kind of kneels to the floor. And I love the really tiny moment when he picks up a can and he puts it on top of the compost bag. I just find that so subtle. I just really love it. But also, I love the fact that M. Night took the one character who has believed the most in this whole thing first in Morgan. And he left the two non-believers with Bo. I'm like, that's great.
Yeah. So Morgan, because at the beginning of the movie, Graham goes to get his inhaler. Now, they forgot to bring his inhaler down to the basement in the hurry. And Morgan starts having an asthmatic attack. And Graham is holding him and he's trying to help him breathe. And he's like, please do not do this to me. Do not take my son away from me. You've already taken my wife. And he kind of tries and slows his breathing, but you can tell he's not getting much air into his lungs. And it's kind of a long-ish scene, and then they kind of they go to sleep, and when they wake up in the morning, Meryl turns on the radio, and the radio is broadcasting, the aliens came here to harvest us, and what they would do is they would use some sort of poison to harvest us, basically. But this morning they left suddenly, but left their wounded behind because they didn't have time to get them. And we hear the news say a primitive method was used to defeat them. Now, before I go on, because this is kind of the last scene, that's the first section, what did you think about, oh, the aliens just left? Like, did you think that was a bit like lackluster, or like, oh, they just left? How convenient. Like, what do you think?
The first time I saw this movie, I was like, oh, this is a bunch of bullshit. This movie was great until like the last act.
Mm.
But the wiser and the dumber screenplay soaked head that I have now really appreciates this decision by M. Night of doing that. Look, I may not like his reasoning for why the aliens left, but you can't say that he didn't kept whacking us over the head with it the whole time. But I do wish that it would have been a more plausible reasoning, because I'm thinking if the aliens chose to come to this planet, wouldn't they have scanned the planet, and wouldn't they have seen that, oh, there's something here that could kill us? Why come to this planet? Right? That's the only thing about this movie that I'm like, M. Night, I love you, man, but you could have thought about that. Because I'm like, really?
Mm. Yeah, because most of our planet is water.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they would have definitely seen
yeah,
the shit.
Yeah, right. They
not
they
go
would have
there.
seen it. Right.
Yeah.
Don't go there. Like,
Yeah, you're right. You are right.
yeah. So for that reason, I like this third act works for me, but it doesn't work for me all the way because of the reasons that we just spoke about.
Yeah, I feel like he just didn't have the budget to do anything else. But I just thought it was very lackluster because the whole movie is awesome until it's like, oh, they've left, and I'm like, I think that's a consensus with most people. They're like, it was good until that. So the second half of the last scene is they go upstairs and they kind of check the house briefly, and they're like, okay, they're gone, and they wheel. And this is, again, one of the other creepiest parts because you're not even expecting it. Graham takes the TV out of the closet because that's where he put it, because he didn't want shit. Like, he didn't want he didn't want his kids watching TV. And it's off. He wheels the TV into the room, and he puts it in a certain part of the room, and then we see a reflection of an alien being in the TV, and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Because you think, oh, coast is clear, they've all gone home. And no, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so creepy. And then he turns to see it holding Morgan. But Morgan is still asleep because he can't get enough breath, so he hasn't woken up yet. And he's unconscious, and the alien is holding him. And he tells Meryl, he's looking at Meryl, he remembers the story of his wife dying, and the last thing she said to him was, tell Meryl to swing away. So he remembers that, and he tells him, he's like, swing away. And Meryl's like, what? And he looks up, and his bats that he held the world record for is on the wall. Meryl grabs the bat, and the alien, he's holding Morgan, and this like what is it called? It's like not dust, it's like steam or like poison comes out of his finger, and it goes into Morgan's mouth, because we've previously known that they poison the people in order to harvest them. And so you're like, oh no, the boy's gonna die. So no, Meryl gets the bat off the wall and hits the alien in the head. The alien drops Morgan. Graham grabs Morgan, and he keeps hitting him, and water spills on the alien's shoulder, and it burns the skin. And so we're like, oh, they really don't like water. And because there's glasses of water all around the house, Meryl just starts hitting the glasses of water, and the water just continually sprays onto the alien. So we know that that was a setup from the beginning of putting the water there because. But that's the other thing that I wanted to ask you. In the beginning, Bo is like, "Oh, the water tastes funny. It tastes weird," and she left all this water around the house. But was that ever explored? Like, why the water tasted weird? Does she have a psychic ability? Was that like, what was the point of that?
I think the water tasted bad because the aliens were sort of perhaps getting the atmosphere ready for them to come and invade the planet. That's why that's why Bo kept noticing weird shit in the water.
Oh, okay.
I won't discount that that's another section of the movie where M Night got perhaps a little plotty and
He got
he
potty.
plotty
Got
and
potty.
and 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 he needed a reason for his hats on the ground to be interesting. So that's why
Mm,
he had Bo come up with different reasons as to why she didn't like this specific glass of water as opposed
mm.
to another one.
Right, right, right. So anyway, Meryl is beating the crap out of this alien. When the alien falls over and then like a water glass spills onto him and just like burns the shit out of him and kills the alien. So Graham runs outside with Morgan and he's got his inhaler, but he gives him the inhaler and he's like, please, 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 please don't let the poison get into his lungs. And Morgan starts to breathe. And the reason that the poison didn't get into his lungs is because his lungs were closed because he didn't have his inhaler and he couldn't really breathe properly, which was kind of cool. I was like, oh, okay. Now, Graham is so happy. He thinks that, God has basically saved his son because a miracle has happened. And that renews his faith. And in the final shot of the movie, he wears the white collar, priest white collar. So it's like an arc for him. So that was that was the end.
Yeah, listen, we have problems with this third act, but I really, really like the final moment of Graham holding Morgan outside his house, stabbing his son in the leg, and basically him praying for his son's safe return. I really think it's a really great, sweet moment. And I do want to just say real quickly that there's a moment in the film when Graham's kids freak out and he tells them both individually moments from when they were born to try and calm them down. And I think it's a really, really
Yeah.
sweet moment or a sweet collection of moments as well.
Yes. Yes. Trivia.
Yes, go on to your trivia.
Joaquin Phoenix replaced Mark Ruffalo, who had to pull out due to a brain tumor, which actually turned out to be benign.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I'm actually learning to really appreciate Joaquin Phoenix as an actor in ways that I haven't before previously.
Mm.
See Mark Ruffalo in this movie. I don't know if that would have worked.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it. Yeah. No, I don't think he would have been good for the role. Clint Eastwood turned down the role of Graham.
No.
Mm, could have been all right. I don't know.
Yeah, but this movie is so synonymous with, M. Night and Mel Gibson that
That's true.
I just don't see it.
That's true. The crop circles were all real. There were no CGI'd crop circles.
Oh man.
And that's how I like to roll.
Good on them. Good on
Yeah,
them.
practical. Because it would have been way cheaper anyway. Way cheaper.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't understand this one. The pantry scene with the knife. Apparently that took 3 weeks to film.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I could
That
see
was
that.
But really that scene was only 3 minutes, and it wasn't even an action scene. Like, what were they
Yeah.
doing for 3 weeks for 12 hours every day?
That's a question for M Night, but I could see
Okay.
how it, I could see how it could be difficult because you need to insert of the knife. You need to time the guy on the other side of the door with the hand.
Mm,
You gotta cover Mel. You gotta cover the door. You gotta cover the other side of the door, and like I
mm,
said, the knife in the hand. So I could feasibly see why it took. Did you say 3
3 weeks.
3 weeks? Uh, yeah, 3 weeks is a little bit excessive. I could see it taking about 5 days, but 3 fucking weeks?
Yeah, 5 days is a good amount, I think. But yeah, 3 weeks is it's a bit long.
Yeah, it's a bit long.
And my last piece of trivia is it took M. Night 6 months to finish the script.
Okay. I mean,
I don't think he was writing it for 6 months. I think it was off and on. But because obviously he'd just come off the back of like Sixth Sense and he was probably really busy. But yeah, 6 months to finish. I would assume to finish all the drafts to make it like production ready. I would assume that would include that.
Right. Okay. Then, with that being said, I accept that. I accept that totally.
Yeah.
Because writing a regular draft is totally different than writing a draft for production.
Yeah, exactly. But that's it. That is my trivia for our season finale.
All right, guys. So with that brings a concluding chapter to season 6 of the Mixtape Podcast. Can you believe it's been 6 years already, or 6 seasons?
Fuck, 6 years? I hope it hasn't been 6 years, has it? Am I blanking out? Shit.
No. 6 seasons. So let me rephrase that. Can you believe that we've already done 6 seasons of this show already?
6 epic seasons. Come on.
That's absolutely crazy. But as I bring this season to a close, I will just say, if you want to email us with questions, comments, concerns, whatever, you can email us at themixtapepod@aol.com. Or if you want to catch up on our back catalog of episodes, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. We are at youtube.com/themixtapepodcast. And to bring this season to a close, I shall simply say, as I say every time that I'm hosting, if someone is ever kind enough to make you a mixtape, that must truly mean that they love you.
The Mixtape Podcast is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.